Heavenly Father, showers the blessings upon the chosen, more and more afraid.
Moran, Moran,
His Holiness Moran Ignatius Aphrem II is the 123rd Patriarch of the See of Antioch and all the East. His Holiness was chosen to lead the Holy Church at the Universal Syrian Synod held on Monday, March 31st, 2014, at Lebanon after demise of Blessed Patriarch Ignatius II first Evas. This is the one of the greatest blessings for Malankara TV. Stay with us.
His Holiness More Ignatius Aphrem II was born on May 3, 1965 in Qazimo, Syria, and was ordained a monk in 1985. He became Archbishop and Patriarchal Vicar in American Archdiocese in 1996. He was enthroned as Patriarch of Universal Syrian Orthodox Church in 2014. His Holiness had his primary and secondary schooling in Syria and Lebanon, bachelor's degrees from Coptic Theological Seminary in Cairo, Egypt. He did his master's and doctoral degree in divinity from Ireland. His Holiness is well versed in Classical Syriac, Neo-Aramaic, Arabic, French, and English. He can also understand and speak a little bit of Malayalam. His Holiness is a writer, orator, and has published many books, two of which are for children, The Treehouse and Animals from the Bible. Your Holiness, welcome to Malankara TV. And let me just start off by saying how thankful we are that you can be with us here today. Your Holiness, you're the first Patriarch who speaks Malayalam, and we know you like Malayali food. What is your favorite Malayali dish?
Thank you very much. First of all, I wish I speak Malayalam. I really don't speak it, but I try to learn a few words here and there, and I thought at the installation that it was important for me to talk to our people, to our children in Malankara in their own language. That's why I made some efforts to say a few words. I'm glad I did, and I hope my Malayalam will get better. Of course, I've known the Malayali community for quite a long time, and my interaction with our Malayali people in North America have given me an opportunity to come to know the culture very closely, in addition to my many visits to Kerala. And I've come to love the Malayali food, and my favorite dish, if you like to know, it's Aphrem and fish molly.
Syriac Orthodox Church is one of the oldest churches and still strictly following our olden traditions and practices. Do you have any plans to modernize our church, especially in regards to our prayers and masses taking a very long time?
Of course, every church has to be up to date with the way it offers the people spiritual nourishment. Every church has to be renewed every day, just like every Christian has to be renewed every day through the Spirit. When we talk about renewal, we don't talk about giving up the apostolic traditions that we have, giving up the forefathers' teachings and customs. We talk about how to present these ancient, venerable traditions in a modern language, in today's language that our youngsters would understand and relate to. And in that regard, yes, we do have some plans to go over our liturgical practices and liturgical ceremonies and try to make them more accessible and more understood and meaningful to today's generation and to the future generations.
Are there any particular plans to attract younger generations to the church?
There is no doubt that the younger generation is not only the future of the church, it's actually the church itself today. And we cannot disqualify the young and put them on the sideline them. We have to make the young people, first of all, proud of their church. Second, active members of their church. And to do so, we have to basically explain to them what our faith is, to explain to them our ancient traditions, and to attract them through making them more active in the church life, through conferences, special youth liturgies, meetings, and especially through bring them in connection with their brothers and sisters throughout the world. One of the plans we have, and we hope to start with next year, is to organize an annual global youth gathering for our young people from throughout the world to meet every year at one place and to live together for 4 or 5 days as members of the same church and to exchange experiences and hopefully build up relationships, because our young people, whether it's in Malankara, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Europe, in America, they have very similar concerns and similar issues these days. The world has become a global village, and the issues that our young people have in Malankara, same issues will be faced by our young people in the Middle East and in America, with some differences, of course, but the main issues are the same. Therefore, bring them together, making them feel their unity and live their experience together is, I believe, is a right way to make them interested in the church and to keep them active in their church.
Your Holiness, what is your biggest challenge thus far to lead the church in the 21st century?
There are so many challenges, but the biggest challenge right now is the lack of security and stability in many regions of the world, especially in the Middle East, where our church was born and was established, with what's happening in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon. It hasn't given me chance to think about many other important things since assuming this holy ministry. I have been busy with visiting these suffering people in parts of Syria and northern Iraq, and I just feel I haven't had time to settle yet. I believe this is God's will, that I should come at a time like this and be able to move around with relatively young age, to be able to move around and visit these people, comfort them, and be with them at time of difficulties.
Your Holiness, terrorism is one of the major underlying problems in all over the world, especially in the Middle East. It affects our churches and other minorities in the region. What is your view?
The Middle East region in particular, and the world today, suffers from a phenomenon that is one of extremism and fanaticism. This ideology, which has developed the recent few decades, is very dangerous, not only for Christians and minorities, dangerous for Islam, Muslims themselves. And I'm talking specifically about these Islamic, political Islamic movements that are considering everybody else as kafir, means infidel, non-believer. They even look at their own Muslim fellows, those who do not agree with them in their very narrow vision and narrow explanation of their text. They look at them also as being kafirs. We call it takfiri ideology. This is very dangerous, and the whole world is suffering from it. Therefore, it needs the efforts and the coordination of major countries, as well as the cooperation of Islamic societies and countries to come out against this kind of ideology and fight against it, not only for the sake of minority, but for the sake of Islam itself.
Your Holiness, media and international communities focused on Syria and Iraq recently, but you have pleaded United States of America and international communities to intervene a while back. Our two bishops were abducted in Syria 2 years back, and we still have no idea where they are. Have there been any action taken by Syrian government to find them?
The abduction of our two beloved Archbishops, Mor Gregorius Yohanna Ibrahim and Boulos Yazigi of Aleppo, is a message, really, to Christians and other minorities in the Middle East that they are not welcome in their own homeland. When you strike the leaders, you basically tell the faithful parishioners that you are going to be next or you have no place among us. Our message, therefore, has always been that Christians should respond by staying in their homeland, by making these plans of driving them out of their homelands fail. At the same time, we tried many avenues to ask about the two archbishops and secure their release. The latest, we were in the White House last week, and we met with President Obama, and I asked him specifically about the two archbishops, and I requested his assistance in finding them and bringing them back to their church and their community. What's happening in Iraq and Syria, I believe, is part of the same event and the same war that is being fought not only against Christians and minorities, but against humanity as such. The human person is being targeted. The civilization is being targeted. And therefore, the whole world should be united in fighting against this kind of extremism to safeguard humanity, to safeguard life as God wanted it and intended it to be.
Let us continue to hope and pray for their well-being.
Thank you. We have to hope and pray because we are people of hope and faith, and we will not give up our efforts also to bring them back.
Your Holiness, recently you have visited Erbil in Iraq and other war-torn area in Syria. Can you share that experience with us?
That's very heartbreaking experience, especially in northern Iraq. I went twice to northern Iraq. First time I went on June 13th, 3 days or 2 days after the expulsion of Christians from the city of Mosul. On June 10th, Christians were driven out of their homes with basically nothing. And those who were leaving, they were stripped of their personal belongings also. I went to visit them in the villages and towns of the Nineveh plain. They took refuge in the churches, in the monasteries, and in the church halls. I was with them for 3 days trying to bring back hope to their hearts and smile to the faces of their kids. Back then, I was praying with them and hoping that they will be able to go back to their homes in Mosul. However, what happened almost 2 months later, on August 6th, is that these same people who were driven out of their homes from Mosul were once again expelled from their places of refuge, together with the people of the plain of Nineveh, total of 120,000 Christians and many other members of the other minorities of Yazidis and others were driven out of their homes, villages and towns, this time to what's called the Kurdish region in Iraq. 120,000 were forced out of their homes in matters of hours, 8 to 10 hours. And the churches had to cope with this big number of refugees. And we don't have too many churches in the Kurdish region, really. Most of our churches are in the plain of Nineveh. So all these people were all of a sudden scattered in towns and villages. They end up staying and sleeping on the streets, in deserted buildings. And of course, all the churches were used for this purpose. And I had to go again and visit them. I went with 4 of my brother patriarchs from the Middle East to visit these people. 3rd week of August, we spent 5 days with them, visiting their places of refuge. And I cannot forget the encounter I had with one little kid. He's about 3.5 years old, with a twin brother. They come to me, and then this kid opens his arm. He says, in Syriac Aramaic, Leitlan Duktho, Leitlan Duktho. We have no place, we have no space. He was part of a community of about 70 families who took refuge in a little church in a small Christian town in Kurdistan. Of course, the hall was packed, crowded with the people, but for me, that cry was not about the physical space. It was about the future. He was telling me that we Christians, it looks like we don't have a future in this area, in our homeland. That was very heartbreaking. What's happening in northern Iraq is nothing short of a genocide against our people. Ethnic cleansing, yes. Religious cleansing, yes, it is indeed. And what surprises me is the silence of the world about this. Now, of course, we hear the last few days that the United States of America and other European countries are going and striking at ISIS. But unfortunately, these people did not take the initiative when Christians were attacked and expelled from their homes. They took initiative only when their own interests were threatened. And they were not shy about that. The US administration made it very clear that we are going to attack, to strike at Daesh, ISIS, because American interests and personnel are in danger. This is the world in the 21st century, where satellites control everything. You can see everything anywhere in the world. They cannot claim that we have not heard or have not seen. About 100 years ago, our people suffered a horrible genocide in the former Ottoman Empire. Back then, we lost more than 500,000 of our Syriac-speaking Christians, in addition to 1.5 million Armenians and Greeks and others. And at that time, many nations claimed that they did not know about these massacres until they were over. But now, what will these countries say? We did not hear, we did not know. I hope they wake up to the danger. This is not against only Christians. This is against humanity, and it will very soon, it may find its way to the streets of New York, Washington, Paris, London, and others.
Your Holiness, you are very actively involved with the current issues in Syria and Iraq. You met with the President of the United States along with other Christian leaders. Have you received any assurance from our President Barack Obama?
Our meeting with Mr. Barack Obama came during an event that took place in Washington, which brought Christians together, both from America and heads of churches from the Middle East. We are 5 patriarchs here in Washington to talk about the presence of Christians in the Middle East. A new organization called In Defense of Christians invited us to see how we can help Christians stay in their homeland. Our meeting was I believe, was both helpful for our people of Middle Eastern origin here in the United States, It was also helpful for us to make our voice heard by some US administration officials. The meeting with Mr. Barack Obama happened at the White House. It lasted about 40 minutes with the 5 patriarchs and 3 bishops representing other patriarchs. And then we continued the meeting with the staff of the president, with the National Security Advisor and others. I believe it was a very important meeting because we had the opportunity to talk to the President of the United States of America, probably the strongest power in the world, and to bring to his attention the plight of Christians and other minorities, and to make him aware of the danger that these groups, terrorist groups in the Middle East present, not only to the Middle East but to the whole world. We did not receive immediate answers to our questions and our concerns, but we felt that the President was listening to us. He was sympathizing with what we were saying. And he told us about his plans to go and strike at ISIS and other groups in Iraq and Syria, which has been happening since then. We are encouraged a little bit by this action by the United States and other European countries, but we believe military action alone is not enough. It should be followed, or it should be also joined by putting pressure on countries that help fund and arm these terrorist groups. These countries should be told to stop funding, giving money and buying oil from ISIS, and also stop giving ISIS and others military equipment, ammunition, and arms. That's the only way to overcome this evil.
Let me come to Managara. You're chosen by God, and it's not a coincidence, but the will of God. The same family member, Morkurilos Yuyakin, came to Kerala in 1845, 170 years back, to support Managara Church. He dedicated all his life for Managara and died in Managara in 1874. Many similarities between Saint Morkurilos Baba and Your Holiness. He was Resh Episcopal, your patriarch as well. He was scholar-writer, you as well. He's built many churches in Managara, among them one of our churches in Fort Cochin and Chalisheri Church. You have spread the gospel all over the world and established many churches in Middle East and America. So much resemblance to our Kurilos Yuyakim Baba. Your Holiness, how does that feel?
Of course, Mor Kurilos Yuyakim was a member of my family from my mother's side. We come from the same village called Hbab in Turabdin region of what's today Turkey. I visited his tomb at Molan Church, and I was always curious about him and about his ministry in India. I read a little bit about him, and I saw a book that was written by him personally, which was kept with some members of our distant family, and I took that book and made a copy of it. It talks about 2 things. It talks about our village in back home, Hbab, and then he talks about his journey to Malankara. And it's a fascinating book. I was hoping to prepare it for print, but didn't have time yet. We'll see. The journey of Mor Kurilos Yuyakim and his ministry in Kerala is part of the efforts of the Holy Church, and in particular the Holy Apostolic See of Antioch, to not only maintain relationship with our church in Malankara, but also to provide service and ministry to our people throughout the world. He was not the only one who went to Malankara, and he was not the last one either. I believe every bishop in our church has love for Malankara in his heart, and especially the patriarchs, my predecessors, all of them without exception had always very special place for Malankara in their hearts. It's so unfortunate that the patriarch usually doesn't speak Malayalam, and many times his message doesn't go across the way it should. Therefore, there are some people who may misinterpret what he says or misunderstand his actions. But I'm very sure that majority of our people in Malankara love the Patriarch, respect the Patriarch, and have very high esteem for him. Not for the person who he is, but more for the position that he holds. And having that special relationship between the Patriarch and the Malankara Church is strengthened usually by the fathers who go from Shima to Malankara to convey the messages of the Patriarch and to meet with the people. Mor Qoryllos was one of them who did his best to serve the church in Malankara. He had to fight with people who wanted to split from the church. He wanted to safeguard the interests of the church there, and he was instrumental in confirming many churches in their faith, maintaining the strong relationship with the Holy See of Antioch. And eventually he ended his life. I mean, he passed away where he loved to be, in Malankara, and his tomb in Moran Authority Church, I know, is being visited by many people every year. I feel somehow heavy burden on me because of that relationship. Because I believe people expect from the Patriarch, who is of the same family of the late Mor Qoryllos, to be as active and as hardworking as Mor Qoryllos Yuaqim in Malankara. And that I cannot do, obviously, for known reasons, because I'm not there all the time. But my love for Malankara is not less at all than Mor Qoryllos. And I will always work to the best of my ability for the church in Malankara, especially for peace and reconciliation in the church in Malankara.
Your Holiness, do you have any family members living in Kerala?
I know the late Mor Qoryllos, he had a brother, his name was Gabriel, who was married to
Chakuril family.
Say it again?
Chakuril family.
Chakuril family, a Malayali family from our church there. And I know the Mor Qoryllos Yuaqim of Martoma Church, the bishop from Martoma Church, who is a descendant of that family. So in a way, we are related in that way. But I don't know of immediate members, or I'm not really in communication with anybody from that family, except the bishop. I met him a couple of times, and I met him when he was here in America also. And we exchanged news, and he told me that he has the kappa, the chalice of the late Mor Qoryllos Yuaqim with him. Yeah.
Your Holiness, what is the plan to visit Malankara?
Visiting Malankara obviously is a priority, and I'm very eager to visit Malankara. And we are still working out the plan, the details of the visit, which I hope will be around the Maninikara Perunar, February. When I go back from the States to Lebanon, I expect to receive his beatitude, the Catholicos, Mor Baselios Thomas I, and I'm sure during that visit we will discuss the details of the visit to Malankara.
All people, Christians, non-Christians, and even government of Kerala look at you for a peaceful solution. You talk about peace in Malankara repeatedly, especially in your apostolic visit to the American Archdiocese. How can this peace be possible?
There is nothing impossible, especially when it comes to church peace. I know there are hundreds of thousands of peace-loving people in Malankara who love to have peace in the church. And I know there are many people who are of goodwill towards that. And I believe it's my responsibility to look for peace in Malankara and to work for peace in Malankara. Peace means that everybody should be living and practicing their faith freely and without any problems and commotions. Peace means that when there is death in the family should not be prevented from going to a cemetery and bury their loved one. Peace means when there is a wedding, people should be able to get together in the same church and celebrate. Now that peace happens when there is reconciliation. Like every divided community, the first step in peace is reconciliation. We need to have reconciliation in our church in Malankara. This reconciliation comes based on certain understandings. It doesn't happen just because I want peace and then I go and issue a decree saying now there is peace. No. There is almost a century-old division happening in Malankara. And it will not be solved in just one declaration or statement. Peace will come when there is agreement between the two divided sides. The patriarch is the spiritual head of both sides. The patriarch is the spiritual father of all the believers, the faithful in Malankara. And the patriarch would like to see peace among his children there. But eventually it will be up to the children to get together, to sit together and to reconcile with each other, with the blessing of their father. My plan right now is to keep listening to the people, discussing the issues with our Catholicos, His Beatitude Mar Thomas, Basileus Thomas first, with our synod in India. And then, when the time comes, when we feel it's the right time, we will initiate a process by which a committee will be sitting together to discuss what kind of peace and reconciliation we'd like to see in Kerala. Now, we are mindful of the many attempts in the past, and unfortunately did not succeed, or succeeded for a certain time and then failed. We are mindful of that, and we don't want to see the reconciliation and unity of 1958 happen again, because it only lived for a short time, about 10 years. We would like to see lasting peace. And for that, we should really come to a degree when there is trust in the middle, when there is confidence, and when no side is afraid of the other. And to arrive at that, there are certain steps that have to be taken. For example, if there is a peace agreement, then all kinds of court cases, lawsuits should be dropped. If there is peace agreement, then no parish should be forced to adopt something that a constitution or bylaws that parish doesn't like. There should be law and order in the church. There should be respect for everybody, and everybody should be able to join the whole church. So peace and reconciliation doesn't necessarily mean unification, like having one body. It can also mean having two entities, two churches living together side by side in peace and harmony, without fighting and without coercing one into the other. So when we talk about peace and reconciliation, we talk about having basically peaceful relationship, being able to participate together. Since there is going to be one faith, anathemas will be removed, excommunication will be removed. When there is peace, then everybody can go to any church to celebrate with the others in times of happiness and sorrow also. Now, we are not discounting and excluding any scenario, but we are not going to force certain scenario also. We'll keep that for the local synods to agree on, and we will bless that. But we will not stop and we will not rest until we find some kind of peaceful resolution to the division in Malankara.
Especially, we have 2,500 churches all over in Malankara. The dispute is only in about 20 churches. So the dispute about the churches is very...
I don't want to go into the details of the local churches, but I know that peace means church should not be forced to go to court to defend itself. A parishioner should not be forced to accept something he doesn't want. Of course, there are certain rules and regulations, law and order that everybody should abide by. But to have peace is, as I said, to be able to live peacefully and worship peacefully.
There was a recent news that Your Holiness would be meeting with Catholicos of the other faction while in America. Is there any fact in this?
I made it clear, even during my installation speech, that the issue of peace in Malankara is a priority for me, because I believe it's the will of God that the church should be reconciled and in peace, and people should enjoy peace. Therefore, my appeal for peace, I believe, was heard by everybody, and in response to that, I received some indirect signals from our people in Malankara, from both sides, that they are eager and they want peace. I remember when the late Patriarch, His Holiness Moran Ignatius Zakka I was in Malankara, and he called for peace, and he was even ready to recognize the Malankara Orthodox Syrian faction or part of our church as a sister church back then. And all the bishops on the patriarchal side were happy with that too. So when I received these indirect signals about readiness to work for peace, I consulted with some of our bishops, with the Secretary of the Synod in Kerala, His Grace More Gregorius Joseph, and I told him that there may be a meeting in the United States of America during my visit there in the month of September. But there was never a date set for that meeting, and I was surprised to hear later that some news was spread in the media in Kerala that a meeting was fixed for 17th of September. I don't know where that date came from. And then later I heard that was another date, 23rd of September or something. That also I don't know where it came from. Someone must have been inventing dates. So there was never a meeting set, really. There was the wish to meet, there was the intention of meeting, but before leaving for the United States, I received His Grace More Gregorius Joseph, the Secretary of the Synod in Malankara, and I told him if such a meeting will take place, then I want him to come and attend that meeting, to be also present at that meeting. And he promised to come. But that meeting never happened, and we did not really fix a date for that. Because of, among other reasons, because of the noise that was made and the rumors that were spread in Kerala. It's so unfortunate and saddening to see some people go to the extent of spreading rumors, publishing false information, even paying to publish false information. This is all not helpful for peace efforts. And we have a fair idea, of course, where this information is originating, where it's coming from. But that doesn't help the church. We will continue to work for peace. We will do everything we can. But obviously, we are looking for peace that is just, that is helpful for everybody, that brings dignity to our faithful, especially at times of their sorrows, and happiness when they have funerals and weddings, baptism, and other occasions. And I ask the children of the church everywhere to pray for that, to pray for peace, to pray that the Lord may give us wisdom, all of us, to pursue peace and to achieve peace for the glory of His name and for the growth of our own faith.
Your Holiness, you are a promoter of ecumenical movements. Do you have words about world ecumenism?
World ecumenism, or ecumenism in the world as we know it, really started following the First World War, and then it was strengthened after the Second World War with the creation of the World Council of Churches. So ecumenism comes as a reaction to division in the society in general, but especially in the church. Ecumenism is our response to division in the church. Ecumenism, for us, does not mean that the whole church will become organically and physically one. It simply means that Christians will be able to witness together, to live together, and to especially provide a credible witness to the gospel together. Ecumenism has different faces and shapes on local, regional, and international levels. We thank God that people of different Christian denominations are able to get together, to pray together, and to work together towards better future for humanity. This is ecumenism that we are talking about. In certain scenarios and among certain groups, ecumenism can go even further by working towards achieving full communion among churches. For example, the full communion that we have within the Oriental Orthodox churches, the full communion that exists among the what we call Eastern or Byzantine Orthodox churches, and the communion that we are seeking between the Oriental Orthodox and the Byzantine Orthodox churches. We are working together to one day achieve that full communion, to be able to remove all the excommunications and to be able to receive communion from each other. That, of course, the perfect unity that we all strive for, but that cannot happen and will not happen in every case. For us, for example, as Syrian Orthodox, to have ecumenical relations with the evangelical Protestant traditions, Episcopalians, and others means that we are able to get together, to witness together in our daily life, to witness together for our faith, and to work together in the context of social work towards promoting the well-being of our people and of humanity in general. But we all definitely encourage this kind of relationship among all Christian churches, and personally we are very interested in this ecumenical work, and we look forward to strengthening our ties and our relationship with all sister churches, both East and West.
Malankara Archdiocese in North America is growing very fast under the leadership of His Eminence Eldo Morditos. His Eminence has changed the face of our Archdiocese, which has attracted many youth to take a bigger role in our churches, many of which have become deacons and priests. You are very friendly to our Archdiocese and Malayali community in North America. Your Holiness, what is your take on this?
Immigration from India has grown very rapidly recently, of course, and that demanded spiritual ministry to be provided for these people. And I believe the presence of our brother in Christ, His Eminence Mortitos Cialdo, at this time, at the head of this archdiocese, was God's response to this fast immigration. Being young and energetic, he was able to bring around him, to gather around him our people, and to organize many new parishes. We were together here for almost 12, 13, 14 years, and I was also in touch with the Archdiocese before His Eminence came, and I know the stability that happened after his coming here helped a lot to strengthen this Archdiocese, to encourage the young people, as you mentioned, to enroll in the holy ministry of priesthood. I'm so happy to see quite a few young people who were born and brought up here in America to become priests in our Malankara Archdiocese. That's very encouraging. And I hope and pray that this stability and growth will continue within the Malankara Archdiocese, which is, of course, an archdiocese under the direct direction of the Patriarch of Antioch. Although the people come from Malankara, and I encourage them always to strengthen their ties with the Mother Church in Malankara, with in terms of culture, of traditions, of connections with the Church in Malankara. That's all very important. But it's also important to recognize that administratively this Archdiocese is under the Patriarchate, and therefore the Archbishop is a member of the Synod of the Patriarchate, and the Patriarch is directly responsible and in charge for this Archdiocese. And it brings joy to my heart to see that this Archdiocese is united. This Archdiocese is growing, both spiritually and in terms of the number of parishes, and above all, that this Archdiocese is attracting the young people to be very actively involved in the life of this Archdiocese.
Your Holiness, we would like to thank you for coming out here and spending your precious time with us. We kneel down and pray to God for more spiritual power be invoked upon your Holiness while dealing with the most crucial problems of our times.
I thank you and thank the Malankara TV and all the media outlets and media people who work among our people in our church, both Malankara, in America, and Middle East, and everywhere. I believe the role of the media has become very crucial for us in the church to drive out our message to our people, and also to build these bridges between the church and the people, between the hierarchy and the faithful of the church, and above all, to bring out the treasure that we have in our churches, in our church, that is our faith, our practices, our traditions, our culture, to bring it out and to make it accessible to the world. And the media, the TV, the internet, the social media these are all very useful and valuable tools to make that happen. I ask the Lord to bless you and to keep you strong in your faith and active in your community. And I hope and pray one day this Malankara TV will be globally watched by our people and stand on its own feet and become a great TV channel. Thank you very much.
Your Holiness, on behalf of Malankara TV, we ask that you continue to keep us on your prayers and thoughts.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.